Hi Dragons, this is learning part 4. So we talked about successive approximation and shaping. When you apply that to therapy, you can do that with individuals as well. But you can do it in small doses. So if you have an individual who comes to therapy and they want to do something like quit smoking or lose weight or get anger issues under control, whatever it happens to be, what you do is you work on small achievable parts, successive approximations, and you reward each one of those as they achieve it with a goal in mind. So it's very similar to what you're doing with, in the last example, Shamu going through the hoop. You're breaking up a goal into small manageable pieces and rewarding each piece of that journey to their final goal. So that's a behavior modification therapy based on successive approximations. We also train a lot of animals to do it this way, and a lot of animals, a lot of different types of animals. Now, the ethics of that aside, okay? So it is not normal for elephants to be balancing themselves on a big ball, or for seals to be spinning a ball with their nose, or, any of those things that we see in circuses. So I think from an ethological point of view that's unethical and not appropriate. However, the way that works is through reward and punishment, okay? So that's, animals just, they don't do that naturally. So they have to be conditioned or taught to do that by rewards and punishment. So what will happen is something that we call instinctual drift. So it's not instinctual for them to do some of those things, and sometimes they become really bored with the activity, even though they're rewarded for it. And as Thorndike said, if you reward the behavior, they'll just continue to do it. Well, sometimes they get really bored with it, okay? And it varies from species to species, and they'll just drift away into an instinctual pattern. So some responses cannot be trained, no matter how much you try to condition them. I don't think that you could train a beagle really to obey when they have a really strong sense of smell. Sometimes that sense of smell is just so overpowering, and even though you tell them to stay and not run away, they're going to run away. The same thing with a husky. Huskies like to run, and you may reward their behavior for staying, but ultimately they want to run. We've seen raccoons that were given rewards, and they get rewards for putting coins into a little bank, and they do it, and they get a reward. They do it, they get a reward. They keep repeating that behavior. But there were some times where they just broke from that, and instead they would take the coin and they would instinctively start to wash it, like raccoons do. They tend to wash all of their food and things like that. And on slide number 45, you can see a picture of a raccoon undergoing instinctual drift, which is really kind of interesting. So in behavior modification, we can do that with adults. There was B.F. Skinner's techniques. He was responsible for a school that was in Rhode Island called Behavior Research Institute, BRI, and it was for individuals who had autism, like the people who were deemed incorrigible, or they had intermittent explosive diagnosis. These were kids who were unruly. And so what they would do at this institution, which, parents paid a lot of money to send them there, is that they would give a punishment for each behavior, negative behavior that was emitted. So every single thing that they did, they got a little punishment for, doing that behavior. And at the end, it really extinguished a lot of those negative behaviors. So when I get back in the classroom, I want one of you to remind me to talk about BRI in a lot more detail. And I'm going to tell you some stories about that place that, so that will put it all into perspective. But I just want you to know for now that we have used those kinds of things in, group home settings. Another type of thing that they use in group home settings are what they call a token economy. And a token economy is whenever you do a good behavior, you get tokens. You don't actually get a reward, you get a token. It's like a little coin, and then you take that coin and you turn it in for something at a commissary or something like that, something that you want. So the choice of reward then becomes your choice. You've done a behavior, you've done well, you get a token, and then you can have whatever reward that you like in the commissary. So it brings that reward back to the individual, and it's a more intrinsic reward because they get to pick it. It's more desirable. A timeout that some of us maybe more familiar with, it's a mild punishment and it takes away a child's freedom, or a misbehaving animal or something like that, and they're placed essentially away from someone. So you're actually denying them, you're removing punishment by removal, removing them from others' attention and others' affiliation and things like that. They're removed from the possibility of getting any kind of friendship or positive reinforcement as well. Applied behavior analysis is another term for behavior modification to mold a desired behavioral response. We do this with individuals who are trying to get a better grasp on things like substance abuse or stealing or all kinds of different behaviors that we might see in a community mental health center kind of thing. We also have biofeedback and neurofeedback. Biofeedback are feedback about involuntary responses, like bringing your blood pressure down. So you might do meditation, relaxation, things that you can actively do toward a goal. So that's biofeedback, and all the while you're monitored and you do these techniques and you can see like your heart rate increasing or decreasing or things like that, and it teaches you how to get a better control of your bodily responses. And then neurofeedback is doing the same thing, only doing things like EEG, brainwaves, and things like that to modify your behavior. So we see those in a more medical sort of setting as well. Cognitive learning theory was an early focus on observable and medical measurable behavior. So inside a person's mind, what's going on inside a person's mind when they're behaving. So in correctional facilities, we might see people thinking about things, their behavior, and they kind of rationalize their bad behavior. So what we do is we try and get inmates or prisoners to think about their rational choices. Okay, so critical thinking errors is the term that we use. If you went into a correctional facility, you see that a lot of inmates try to rationalize or think about their behavior in a way that is illogical, and so we try and get them to think about what they've done in a different way. So cognitive learning therapy is something that's related to it. Tolman talked about latent learning. He was an early cognitive psychologist, and he looked at time involved in learning mazes, okay? And he had 3 groups of rats in one maze, and he would run them one at a time. Group 1 would be rewarded each and every time they did finish the maze correctly, and they got a reward every time, and they learned it very quickly. Group 2 was only rewarded after a particular length of time, like let's say the 10th day or something like that. And they learned the maze very quickly after the 10th day. And then group 3 was never rewarded, and they did not really learn the maze well. So that expanded our knowledge of operant behavior, okay? Latent learning remains hidden until it becomes useful for the organism, okay? And on figure 54, they show you an example of the maze that the rats had to run with Tolman, so it's very interesting right there. And the learning curves for the 3 different groups of rats on slide 55. Kohler was an ethologist who looked at insight learning, and he would place pieces of sticks and a banana that was hanging from the ceiling, and he would watch to see how apes, especially chimpanzees, would come to solve a problem. And he could actually see them looking at the stick, them looking at the banana, looking back at the stick, and they would look at the stick and all of a sudden go, oh, I know how to put this together. And he called that an aha moment, where the insight just came to the animal, and the animal could figure out what to do very quickly. And of course, getting the banana was a reward for that behavior. So Kohler was very good on that sort of learning, and that's slide 56. Slegman and learn helplessness. Okay, so Slegman was looking at dogs, and he had dog A and dog B, 2 different grades. And learned helplessness is the tendency to not act when you have the power to act, but you don't use it, okay, because you're boxed in by repeated failures. So dog A would be hooked up to dog B, and whatever happened to dog A would happen to dog B. So dog A, they would be on these grids that heated up. This is unethical again. That heated up. Eventually, that would heat. A light would go on, and the grid would heat up, and the dogs would whine. eventually dog A accidentally would hit a button that would turn off the heated grid. And then it would happen to dog B, okay? So dog A was like, oh my God, that hitting that button stopped the heat. Okay, so then the light came on again, and dog A would push the button and it would stop, okay? So the same thing's happening to dog B, but dog B does not have a button, and dog B is like, I don't know, sometimes I get shocked, I get heated paws, and sometimes I don't. What's happening? I don't know, okay? Because dog B has no control, okay? Then when Seligman put dog B in the same situation as dog A, given the button, given the lever, can turn off the thing, dog B didn't do it. Because dog B had learned to be helpless. Dog B had learned that no matter what I do, that thing is going to happen to me, and didn't even try to turn off the light. Okay, you see elephants in zoos, and they have a peg in the ground, and they have a chain around their leg. It's an elephant. It could run and just whack that thing and break that chain. But does it do it? No, because it has learned to be helpless. Now, I have had students in the past that tell me, I can't do math. I haven't done math since I was in high school, and I always stink at math. And I will say, yes, you do stink at math. And you know why you stink at math? Because you tell yourself that you stink at math. You have learned to be helpless. You don't even try. You have the power to be great at anything that you set your mind to. But past experience is clogging your ability to even try. So take that to heart and know that you can do anything you want. What you did in high school and grammar school does not count now. You're in college and you can do it. So don't be dog B. Be dog A. You can do it. Don't learn to be helpless, okay? So that goes into thinking about victimology. So victims, they get into a victim mindset and they think, oh my God, I can never do X, Y, or Z. They are essentially adapting the strategy of dog B. Don't be dog B, be dog A. You can do anything. So that is Seligman in a nutshell. And here's a different variation on slide 58 of Seligman and his dog so that you can see what they did. So that was another adaptation. And then you have Bandura and the Bobo doll. Bandura had this doll, and kids were punching this doll and having fun with it. If they saw that an adult punched the doll and they started to punch it too, they had observational learning. And Bandura showed that we can learn things just by observing others. And if a negative consequence happens to someone and we're watching it, then we go, oh, I don't want that to happen to me, so I'm not going to do it, okay? So learning by observing is another thing that is important in psychology. Also, if a role model was rewarded, given something that they wanted by interacting with the Bobo doll, then the subject watching said, oh, look, you got a reward for doing that, so I'm going to do that as well. So kids learn that as well growing up. And slide 60 shows actually the Bobo doll, and I'll put a video of Bobo doll from the original Bandura so that you can see how that actually worked on a forum, so you can tell me what you think. So the 4 elements of observational learning are attention, you got to pay attention to it. Memory, you have to be able to remember what was done and how it turned out. You have to be able to imitate it, and you have to have the desire to do it. So if someone got a reward for doing something, then you're going to have the desire to do it as well. Okay? Can you really train your cat to use the potty? Well, yes, you can, because now you have learned all about the techniques that go into operant conditioning and classical conditioning, and you can actually try this at home. Good luck with your kid. All right, so that finishes learning for this week. You've got the whole 63-slide PowerPoint on learning, and so that will be on your test, and I will create your essay test and put it up for you, and we'll probably, let's say today is Tuesday, I will try and put it up by tomorrow. No, today is Monday. I'll put it up by tomorrow, Tuesday, and then it'll be due on Sunday, so how's that? Okay, take care, stay safe. It's a great day to be a dragon. See you soon.